fun! Cut down the Christmas tree, bake holiday cookies, drink hot cocoa. There are about a million different things that I love to do during the holiday season, and the easiest way for me to do it is to make sure I get them all done through my handy dandy advent calendar. Ever since my brothers and I were little, my mom would stock up the advent calendar with little slips of paper and maybe trinkets to give different instructions for every day leading up to, what day is Christmas? December 25th. That's when the advent calendar would end. So, I know that a lot of you are probably making food, but I am not gifted in the kitchen, so I'm going to show you a handy dandy aspect of my holiday season. And the best part about this is it allows you to get a lot of family time in while also doing something that's really exciting for, I would say, younger kids, because me and my brothers always got ridiculously excited when it was time for the advent calendar every night at 3 o'clock or earlier if it was an activity that required being outside during the light. We would get so excited to go and open up the little doors and see what the day had in store for us. But to better understand the advent calendar, I'm going to read out of Stories Behind the Great Traditions of Christmas by Ace Collins to tell you what the advent calendar is all about in terms of the tradition that it holds for many families. Advent is a word often heard during the weeks leading up to the Christmas season. But as many churches do not actually celebrate Advent, a great number of people don't understand its meaning or its place in church history. To millions, Advent is about wreaths, candles, and calendars. While these three elements are a way to mark the Advent season and have been an essential part of celebration of this tradition, maybe even overshadowing the 4 weeks of Advent itself, there is a great deal more to Advent than this. Advent is a Latin word meaning the coming. Officially established by church leaders in the 6th century, Advent was originally meant to be a time when Christians reflected on the meaning of Christmas and when new believers spiritually prepared themselves for baptism. Beginning on the Sunday nearest November 30th and running until Christmas Eve, December 24th, Advent was essentially 4 weeks set aside to contemplate what the coming of Jesus meant, not only to the world, but to every individual soul. Hence, while recognized and organized by the church, Advent was also supposed to be a time of personal retrospection and growth. Today, 1,400 years after the first Advent season, many families use the symbols of Advent, wreaths, calendars, to bring the spiritual meaning of Christmas to life. So, now that we all have a great handle on what the Advent calendar season actually is, we're going to get into the individual steps that needed to pack the Advent calendar and also the materials necessary. So, if we take a look at the Advent calendar presentation, which I have made, nice little visual aid, we can look at the materials necessary for your Advent calendar. So, obviously, you need the calendar. Now, it's important when you go to purchase an Advent calendar such as this that you're careful about what you're buying, because a lot of stores like Target and Walmart will sell prepackaged Advent calendars that just have things like chocolate in it, and buying one of those completely gets rid of the meaning of doing family-like activities together. Then you're just eating chocolate together, which, as great as it sounds, defeats the purpose. So you're going to want to get a nice wooden Advent calendar so that you can use it for a long time, similar to the one in that picture. That's super cute. You're also going to need tiny pieces of paper and a pen. The pieces of paper are important because that's what you'll write the little notes on for what you put into the Advent calendar about what you're going to do. And then you might also want the extra trinkets, for instance, like an ornament that you would put on the tree so that you know that it's time to decorate the tree, or a big old jingle bell that symbolizes playing the Polar Express board game. Now, onto the instructions on how to use the Advent calendar. The Advent calendar is super simple. It's not anything that's complicated. It's something that basically any family can do, low cost, other than the initial purchase of the Advent calendar. So, the first step, like I said before, acquire the Advent calendar. We've had this one since probably before I've been live. We've always used it, and they last forever if you buy a nice one. The second step is going to be cut out the pieces of paper, make them fit into the Advent calendar. Once again, very simple, not rocket science. And then the third step is to use the calendar. So the Advent calendar, not a complicated process. If anything, it's probably one of the easier things that you can do during the holiday season. It's just a helpful guide for getting everything done. So Now that I've told you the individual steps for the advent calendar, I'm going to give you some examples of how to use it. So, typically for the first day of Advent, if I can get this thing open, it'll say something like, buy or set up our Christmas tree. Which ornament is your favorite? And it will be accompanied by the little Christmas tree, which symbolizes going to the Christmas tree farm and picking out something fun to do. Now, if we were to look through some of the other trinkets that my mom has utilized over the past year, we have a little train, and the train is important because when we lived in Illinois, it would mean something like get on the train and go down to Chicago to do your Christmas shopping, which was always really fun. Or there's the Christmas cookie cutter. And my favorite thing that would always say in the advent calendar was like a little hint like go look in the oven. And then when we would go look in the oven, it would be like a big ball of cookie dough. And then we would like roll it out. Nobody actually liked rolling it out. It was all about using the cookie cutter to make the shapes and thus using it. Now, to actually demonstrate part of the experience, I'm going to take a little slip of paper and write down something that we could put in the advent calendar. I don't know where my pen went, so I will use a highlighter. Oh, there's my pen. How convenient. Now, for the advent calendar, obviously since it's 24 days long, you don't always need to be doing something crazy fun on it. If anything, it could be something as simple as drinking hot cocoa and reading Christmas tree stories, or just reading Christmas stories. So, one thing that you could do to put in the advent calendar could be something cheap and inexpensive, like, oh, I don't know, string popcorn and hang them up on the trees outside for the birds. And this is always really fun because it gets everyone in the family involved and also does something for the birds. So you're helping the wildlife and you're helping your family bond. Along with that, we would also always read the book. I think it was called Night Tree. Is that correct? Awesome. Camera woman says that Night Tree is correct. So that is just another example of something we would do as a family. Now, my mom has a whole box of advent calendar activities that I thought I would share with you. So when you go to do this maybe one day with your own family or with, I guess your own family, here are some other things that we would do. We'd go through Christmas cards that we've received and pray for the individual families. We'd take our family photos in front of the Christmas tree, which was always fun. What else? Oh, let heaven and nature sing. Pop and string the popcorn. That's where I got the idea. It was already used in the advent calendar. Okay, now, if we had been in class, this is the time where I would have asked all of you this would have been the time where I would have asked all of you to take out a sheet of paper and write your own advent calendar ideas on it, and I would have read them out loud to the class had they been school appropriate. But since it's a video recording that we're doing, I'm going to ask some of the members of my family to share their ideas on what we could do for the advent calendar. Now, Mrs. Carabas, the legend behind the advent calendars within the Carabas family. Since there is no class for me to ask, how about you give some ideas on that little handy-dandy sheet of paper on what you would have put in the advent calendar back in the day? And then share with the class.
Okay, I wrote, have a gingerbread house party, because we love doing gingerbread houses. So we wouldn't bake the gingerbread houses ourselves, but we would go out and buy the kits, and everyone could invite one friend over to make a gingerbread house with them. This year, since it's a weird year, you could buy the kits and deliver them to families and just make it a kindness. Share a gingerbread house with them.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Now that I've given all of you some ridiculously good ideas on what to put in your advent calendar, let's see what December 6th has waiting for us. So, a green tea packet. I wonder what that could be. Have some girls over for Christmas tea. Well, let's cut to it. Thank you to my lovely guest, Skipper, for joining me for holiday tea today. Let's see what we can get her. Oh, here you go. Oh, wow. She really likes the tea. What a beautiful holiday celebration, thanks to the Advent calendar. Thanks for watching, everyone. Oh my gosh.